Sometimes I feel like I'm speaking for two people. Bible, two bulls. Bible, two bulls. Two people. One in light, one in dark. One sun, one moon, one sun, rather. One pure, balanced. The other, not so much. No judgment. But judgment occurred, but no judgment for me. It's a lot. What I've been thinking about with that is basically the Bible. The Bible is a story of two selves. You, who is in the light, and you, who is in the dark. You who is in the dark sees things differently as you who is in the light. You who is in the light sees things as society tells you, as light has shown you. And the connection with the moon. This is so appropriate for what we're getting ready to go through in the heavens, because the moon, or Cancer, is about to transition to Leo, the sun, and the focus will be not so much on like the stomach and the chest area. It'll be more so focused on the solar plexus. And what I'm seeing from this area is that there's going to be a lot of egoic activity. Like there's going to be like strong egoic activity, but it's not in the sense of the ego controlling. It's more so that the ego is going to be in the light. It's going to be shining, but in a way that helps you. The reason why it's important is because the moon is showing us what's in the dark. So right now you have a lot of things that were going on in the darkness, but all those things that were going on in the darkness, some things that we're aware of, some things that we're not aware of, but those things are going to be in the light now, in Leo, which is coming up. They're going to be in the light, and they're going to be seen in a way that they weren't seen before in Cancer. And they may be helpful. They may be ugly things that you don't necessarily understand. But my advice would be to remain calm, neutral, and be understanding. Don't judge what you see, because what you see may not be understood once you see it for the first time. Once you see it for the first time, it may not make sense to you. It may be all these things that you place judgment on, but you have to realize once you're placing judgment on them, you put them somewhere that they don't necessarily need to be, and that can hurt you. So don't place them anywhere. Don't judge them. Don't tell them that they are this. Don't understand them as this, but look at them objectively. Just look at them. Observe. This is what the energy has been telling me. Like, observe these things that are coming up and that are coming out into the light. Don't be mad at them. Don't necessarily even be happy about it, because, well, when I say don't be happy about them, because they may be something in the light that may seem good at first, and then it may not necessarily be as it seems, because all that glitters is not gold. So like just because it's in the light, it could be glitter. It doesn't necessarily have to. It could be pyrite. It doesn't necessarily have to be gold. But just like take a minute before you react to it. And then once you observe it, once you understand it for what it is, then you respond. But that's just part of my message. Like I said, what's in the darkness doesn't understand necessarily what's in the light, and what's in the light doesn't necessarily understand the dark. So like what's in the shadow doesn't understand what's in the light, and what's in the light doesn't necessarily understand the shadow. This is your yin and yang as well. And I was gonna say also, moon and sun. Inside of the mother is the womb, and inside of her is, in this instance, we're gonna use the sun, SON. And I was thinking today how the cutting of the umbilical cord can probably be trauma to the male child, because he is cut off from source, the source that gives him information, the source that feeds him while he's in the darkness. So at this point he is pulled out into the world, and he sees everything for he sees everything for what it is and how it is, opposed to being in the dark, like hearing the voices and hearing everything around him, and being told by a voice that comes from nowhere, that these are the things, or maybe even she didn't explain what these things were, but she saw what these things were, and she just looked at them, and those images are inside of him, and the feelings that she felt are inside of him. So those feelings occurred in the darkness. But I say all that to say that the cutting of the umbilical cord was the cutting off the sun from moon, from the source of the source of like information, the connection to the higher realms, the spiritual realm. And the reason and the reason why I say it's like the breaking of connection, and it could be like trauma, is because you are literally split from another being. Like you're connected to another being. Like you come into your understanding, like everything about you is growing based on the connection that you have to another being. And then all of a sudden, after I think it's 9.5 months, you're cut off from this source, and you're not necessarily told why you're cut off from this source. So that's why I say that it's trauma, and that this is also why the male child probably seeks to have that connection with a female, because the umbilical cord is in your belly button. And I've told you before how that's the same area where your sacral chakra is. It's like between your sacral chakra and your solar plexus. So your sacral chakra is where a lot of creativity happens, where I basically been talking about, like the whole the sexual part of you is like in that area. So we think that our connection and what completes us is basically being inside of a woman, but using our private parts to connect with that woman, and that's not necessarily how we should be connecting. But but that's one of the reasons why we think that's why we should be connecting in that way, because that energy is still there, and we're not necessarily taught that we're supposed to be moving that energy up. Like you're supposed to progress beyond that, and be able to move your energy to higher levels. And in darkness, you were connected to that higher being, that spiritual realm, through your umbilical cord, biblical cord, or biblical. I am biblical. You become biblical. I am biblical. I am by Bo. I mean, it's funny because I haven't said this out loud, but like I was saying in the beginning of the video, by to bull. I am speaking for two people, one in light, one in dark. And with the male, one thing that we have to understand is that we like the female have something inside of us that is feeding off the energy that we have, and we feed it light, we feed it dark, but what we feed it is what it understands the world as. And what it understands the world as is basically a reflection of who we are and what we accept, what we do, how we respond to things, and what we say. All these things, it's a reflection of that. And how we treat ourselves, how we treat other people, is how we treat that energy or entity that's inside of us. But we have to acknowledge that, we have to know that we don't have a womb. Like, we can't produce it into the world. We can't bring another full human being outside of us. But what we can do is we can build up the entity that is inside of us to be light, to be something that seeks light, and something that wants to go higher, wants to raise up to that spiritual realm, wants to get to that level that is connected to the mother, which is I want to say, like, because the umbilical cord connects to, I want to say it connects to your like intestines, because that's like generally the area, but I did not look it up before this video. I made a mental note to do it, but I did not, and I may revisit this. Forgive me, but I want to say that it's connected in that way. And like everything that we get, like the physical food that she eats is what goes inside of us. And we have to build up that energy. Like, we have to connect to that moon energy, and we have to not deal in sadness. Know that love is just above that. Like, your heart is near your stomach. Remember that. Like, your heart is near your stomach, but you don't want to stay in the area. You want to go past that door. You want to cross that bridge. You want to go to the ethers. You want to go to the heavens. You want to go higher. But you have to acknowledge that when you're faced with a situation of sadness, like, you're no longer feeling like your connection is something that cannot be reestablished, that cannot be created or built from your own will. Like, when you realize that it can be built from your own will, when you realize that that connection can be something that you've worked on, you built a relationship with, like, you have that internal love. Once you have that internal love and you realize that love is what it's really about, then you can start to build that bridge. You can start to build your understanding of like, this is how I want to connect with people. This is how I've been connecting with people. This is not working. I have to let that go. You know, cut that off, sever that connection, and the way that I connect with people, sever that way of existing, and start doing this and start connecting to people this way. And this is how you build up, and this is how you reside in this area. This is how you build that bridge. This is how you want to be able to cross that bridge, because that bridge could help you get to better things, and you won't feel lost. You won't feel disconnected. You won't feel detached from something and not necessarily know what it is. You want to feel connected. You have to go inside of your heart chakra. This is what Jesus is. Jesus is inside of your heart. That's what they tell you. I don't know if this is just a Baptist thing. I think it's a Christian thing where they tell you that Jesus is in your heart, but that's what that understanding is. This is how you get justice, because justice is Jesus. But you just have to trust me. Trust me when I say that it's worth it. You have to build that connection with yourself, and with yourself is who you have to build that connection with. Understanding that you are in the light, because you are what's seen, and what's not seen is in the darkness. But that's where you're gonna find the most growth, because what's in darkness is hiding stuff from you, but it's not doing it because it doesn't like you. It's because you don't like, and you don't do this, and you don't do that, and this is why, and you may not know that's why. It's all these things, all these things that we build up over time that we don't acknowledge. We think it's just something that we do on a regular basis that's okay to do, but we have to have the understanding. We have to give those situations light and understand that those things have meaning beyond just like the casual whatever, the casual like passing of judgment. It's deeper than that. Like it may not seem like it is, but once you get into like doing like energy work and you understand shadow work, you understand that those things actually matter. Like for the longest time, there's certain things that I wouldn't do with my right hand. There's certain things what I wouldn't do with my left hand, because that's the way I was like programming myself. But now I understand that. Well, I've had this understanding for a while that I'm supposed to be able to do multiple things with each hand, and though one is good for this, I'm not saying that this one is bad for it. It's just that I prefer doing it this way, or I prefer doing it that way. But I understand why I'm doing it. I'm not just doing it because I program myself to do it. It's because I feel comfortable doing it that way. I can do it either way. I'm ambidextrous. I can write with my right hand. I can write with my left hand. I prefer writing with my left hand. I prefer doing certain things with my left hand, but I know that a lot of strength is in my right hand. I know that carrying things and doing certain things with my right hand is important, but there's a connection there. And and yeah, it's just very important that we understand that we're not supposed to be either or. We're supposed to be balanced. Once you understand that a threat to balance anywhere is a threat to balance everywhere inside of you, and even outside of you. But since we're talking about it in this video, it's inside of you. So make sure you balance yourself internally, and then everything external will follow, because what's inside reflects out, and what's outside reflects in. But the filter, understand that there's a filter. This is your filter. This is how you filter what's good for you, what you like, what you accept, and what you want to get rid of. Like, you want to get rid of that old energy. You want to get rid of that darkness. You got to make sure that you're breathing and making sure that you're cleansing stuff through your heart. And how you respond to things has to be focused on from your heart. Like, you have to do things from your heart. Don't do it from your ego, because your ego is not what cleanses. Your ego is what protects. It stops you from doing a lot of things. It stops a lot of things from happening. But that's not going to help you if that's your only way of understanding. You don't want to understand things through the ego. You want to understand things through your heart, and your ego is right below your heart. It's what literally protects your heart. But don't give it a reason to protect your heart. Give it room to be what it is, but don't judge it as that or for that, because that's what causes a lot of distress. It causes a lot of imbalance, because it's basically you versus yourself, and you don't want that. You don't want something inside of you going against you. That's not going to help you. You want something that's inside of you, something that's internal. You want that working with you. So you have to build that relationship with that thing that's inside of you. But don't fight against it, because that's gonna cause you spiritual distress and mental distress. This is where, in my opinion, this is where a lot of mental illness come from. It comes from a lot of spiritual stress and turmoil. So you want to make sure that you're building that relationship with yourself internally as well as externally. Like, we focus so much external that we don't realize that it's a reflection of what's going on internally already. Like, we think of certain things as synchronicities, but these synchronicities are already things that are connected to us, and we think of it as separation. It's not separation, it's connection. Everything is connected. But yeah, um, I think that's all I want to say on that. I feel like covered a lot in this topic, but I'm really glad that I was able to cover this topic and able to make the connections that I made. Like even in this video, like sometimes when I'm talking, I'm learning too, because as I said, like a lot of it is in darkness. Like I think about a lot of this stuff, but it's in darkness. But as soon as I'm talking about it and it comes out into light, it becomes clearer. It becomes more open. Like it's coming out into that open space. And once it's in space, I can see it in the stars. Like I can see it in the heavens. And in the heavens is where I'm most happy. It's like it's clearer. It's like where I can see like all kinds of things playing out, and it just helps me like to conceptualize it a little bit more and to share it with other people. Like because at the end of the day, once it's in the heavens, it becomes ether, and I'm able to breathe it in and breathe it out, and things that are inside of me are basically shown to the world, and I'm just happy with that. I'm not saying that everybody else will be, but that's just something that I've learned about myself, like in doing this particular work, is what we'll call it at this point. But yeah. With that being said, I love you, and I hope you have a great day.